This video is sponsored by Manscaped. Now, I still can't believe that my tuned Golf R beat my Lamborghini Gallardo on a quarter-mile drag strip. And if you've not saw that video, click in the top right-hand corner. But today's video isn't on the Golf R, neither the Maserati Gran Turismo or the Lamborghini Gallardo. It is on my crash-damaged BMW M4. Now, about a week ago now, I picked up this BMW M4 Competition, which what I thought was a really good price, on the basis that the damage was what I thought it was. Now, if this video, say, gets 10,000 thumbs up, I'll release the price of what I bought this BMW M4 for. Now, the small hiccup that I didn't take into consideration, obviously, when looking at the car, was that after taking the under tray off, when I got it back here, I realised there was a huge hole in the engine sump, which holds all the oil for the engine. Now, if the engine has been ran without the oil in, potentially the engine is a no-goer, and this project becomes something which was reasonably priced to now something extortionate, because we have to change the whole engine and potentially the gearbox as well, because the gearbox sump also had a hole in it as well. And just for that reason alone, I've attached the money pit key tag to the BMW M4 because, well, we know what is about to happen. Link in the description for these. Now, right at this exact moment, I know the fate of this M4. I know the fate of the engine. And that's because yesterday we did a little experiment on it and we had a little idea. So let's take you back to yesterday. So we've already established that there's a huge hole in the BMW sump. So to replace the sump, we've got to drop the subframe. And then we've got to buy a new sump. And the price for a new sump is extortionate. I'll tell you that later in the video. And if we do all of that and then find out that the engine is gone, all of that work has gone to waste. So me and my dad had a plan, and that was to somehow manufacture a bit of plastic out of an old oil drum, stick it to the bottom of the sump, so then we could put engine oil in the engine, run the engine, and then see if it's knocking at all. So as we started doing this, we realised two things. One thing, the seller definitely knew about the hole in the sump, and that was because the under tray covering up, you could clearly see that it had been wiped clean by whoever had it off before. So, nice one. And the second thing that we noticed is the damage to the sump probably wasn't caused by the crash, as we couldn't see any damage to the subframe around that area. When these cars end up at Copart like to pick them up with forklifts. Don't ask why. You can see exactly where it's been picked up with a forklift because it's actually squashed the exhaust, and also it probably would have put a hole in the sump and in the gearbox sump from lifting the whole car up with just the forklift. So again, nice one. Now, with the makeshift sump repair ready and the jack pressing up underneath it to ensure that it doesn't fail, I didn't want to start the car without any oil in the gearbox. So we dropped the gearbox sump and just sealed it up a bit, just so we can get enough oil in there, just so it's not completely dry when we start it. But once that was done, it was time to add the oil, and then we could start the car. There's enough oil in there just for the sump to, the strainer just to pick the oil up throughout the engine. Now we're going to try and start it now, and well, let's see what happens. Here's the M4 engine. Okay, we're about to find out. I think the battery might be flat. Hey, it sounds good! It sounds good, yeah! So you think I'm this happy about starting an engine up here? Wrong. I'm this happy because I've just got my balls the smoothest they'll ever be with the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0 with skin-safe technology, an LED light, and it is completely waterproof. Also, with the performance package, I got the Manscaped Weed Whacker, so I can assure you my nose and ear hairs are equally as trim. Not only that, in the performance package, I got ball deodorant and ball toner as well, so I'm smelling and looking great. Now, that's definitely worth getting excited about. And to put the cherry on the cake, if you click the link in the description box below and use code Armstrong20, I definitely got that right first time around, you're going to get 20% off plus free international shipping and 2 free gifts. The Shed travel bag and the Manscaped boxes. Thanks, Manscaped. That is mint. It's mint. Come on! Oh my God. It runs. So now we can just begin repairing it. And back to the present moment, and what amazing news. The M4 runs with no knocks. Yes, we barely put any oil in the engine or any oil in the gearbox, but obviously that will all be drained out. But now I know I can take the subframe off, replace the sump, and I've got an engine which actually runs. If that doesn't deserve a subscribe, then I don't know what does. So the next step on the M4's journey is to change the sump. So to change the sump, I've got to drop the subframe, but the subframe's got to be changed anyway because, well, this leg has snapped the subframe completely off. So the whole subframe has got to be changed. But I have a solution already. And right here is the solution. Not only have we got a subframe, we've got 2 suspension legs with the springs, anti-roll bars, drop links, everything we need to just do a quick swap around. Now that's absolutely perfect because we don't know what damage is done to this side. This side is definitely bent. So from my experience on doing these crash damaged cars, it's best just to replace the whole thing because you always end up changing one thing, the other, and there's just random things you just keep finding which are bent. And believe it or not, I managed to find all of this thanks to a subscriber messaging me on Instagram for £500, which is an absolute bargain because the subframe alone, second-hand, you're looking at £300 to £400. So to get it all together is absolutely bang on. So enough talking, let's get fixing. So the main aim here is just to disconnect everything connecting the subframe to the car. I'm going to start with the brakes, then we can move on to all the electrical connectors. We're going to leave the top of the suspension connected because that's going to help us later on. Now before I disconnect the subframe from the bottom, we need to support the engine from the top because once it's disconnected, there is nothing to support the engine from underneath. That's why I bought this £8 tow hook from Amazon to screw into this section of the engine here, and then this thing called an engine support bar, which was about 50 quid off eBay. I could then screw this into the engine and then hook it onto the tow hook, then the support bar actually sits on the chassis of the car holding the engine up, and then could disconnect all the electrical connectors from the bottom and the 2 engine mounts you can see me disconnecting here. Now I can start to lower the subframe by undoing the bolts. There's only 2 things holding the subframe to the car now, and that's the top of the suspension struts. So I'm going to support it underneath with the jacks and then start undoing the top of the suspension struts. I've been told you that it was game on. Been winning since I was on game 1. Telling me how to live like you made me. Once these are undone, it's free to come down. Okay, we're doing all right, and this is probably one of the biggest projects I've taken on so far on the whole channel in my whole entire life, and learning as I go along is, well, we're getting there. So the old subframe is completely down. As you can see, that's where the damper was dented, and that's obviously bent there. So the actual part of the damage of the subframe is down here. That's actually snapped. That snapped off with the arm. We don't know what's bent on there anyway, so it's good that we're just going to change the whole thing. Now here is probably one of the biggest engine sumps I've seen in my entire life. It's absolutely huge. Now that sump is huge, and well, me in my head I'm thinking, oh, sump's probably 100, maybe 200 quid. Second hand on eBay, there was one for £400, which I thought was expensive anyway, but you need gaskets, you need bolts, and I didn't want to take any risks with it because, well, you've got to drop the whole subframe down to change it. So if anything was wrong, I've got to do all that work again. So inside this box, I went directly to BMW for this. Got a gasket, I got all the bolts for it as well, and a brand new sump. The price for that was £645. But there's no avoiding it, and I've had to buy a gearbox sump as well, but I managed to get a gearbox sump. That was only £150, including the oil and the gaskets as well, so not too bad there. That actually makes this seem like real cheap for £500. The whole subframe, suspension arm, steering rack, anti-roll bar, £500. That makes it seem more of a bargain. Okay, so it's round 2 now. Let's get this old sump off, the new sump on, then we can start putting the subframe back together. Let's go. Okay, so to access all the bolts for the engine sump, I had to remove that engine mount right there, and then I could undo the silly amount of bolts holding the sump to the car. And here is the fresh sump from BMW with a gasket as well. Time to put it up all in the car and then tighten it all up, obviously to the torque specs. We're not taking any chances here because if oil leaks from this, I do not want to be taking that subframe down again. Time to go back up with the engine mount. And then there it is, sitting there fresh. One sump with no holes in it. I then could place the new subframe underneath the car and then use 2 jacks to push it up into position so I could get the bolts in for the top of the suspension struts. I then could put the bolts in for the subframe, connect all the electrical connectors, and then start to lower the engine back into its position in the subframe, and then tighten up the lower engine mounts. I can remove the engine support bar then, and then start putting all the brake discs, brake pads and electrical connectors on the side back. Okay, we have one straight subframe on the M4. I actually can't believe I did that. If you would have shown me that a year ago, I would have been, no, definitely not. But now, it's on. It's straight. The wheels are facing the right way. Everything is all connected. Or we're probably going to need some new brake discs. I mean, these aren't the greatest, and yeah, they might have taken some damage. Right. Next up is the gearbox sump. So the engine sump's on now. I don't want to fill it with oil just yet because I think there's some pipes here which it could leak oil out until we get the front end on. The gearbox sump's got a huge hole in it. Now, I thought I could save some money with a gearbox sump by buying it off eBay for 150 quid. The gearbox sump is in here, and the exact reason why I bought from BMW the engine sump is, well, this one doesn't fit. I put in the VIN number and it still doesn't fit. Oh! So we're gonna have to wait for a gearbox sump, but in the meantime we've got a front end to replace, and you may have noticed in the background, we've got some bumpers and all sorts around here. Now I bought a full front end from a BMW M3. Fingers crossed it is the same. I think it is the same. M3, M4, I think the front end is exactly the same. But we've got radiators, intercoolers, we've got all sorts of bits and bobs. We've got crash bar, headlights, the whole thing of a BMW M3. I've also got 2 front wings as well. So I've got the old front end to start stripping apart and then starting to put the M3 front end on it, which fingers crossed it fits. Now this is all killing me because outside it is so nice and we just want to be out driving the Maserati. Look at it, it's absolutely glimmering there. Love the Maserati. It's also a perfect time to start plugging the Hard Work Beats Talent shorts and t-shirt and hoodie set. The link is in the description box below. Right, let's crack on with stripping this front end. Okay, so now I'm having one of those moments where you think, what the hell have I got myself into? Trust me, this thing makes the Golf look like child's play. On the Golf, there was literally only coolant hoses, aircon hoses, and then the intercooler hoses. On this, there's things I don't even know what they're for, and that's where I'm struggling right now. Okay, so down at the bottom here, I've got 2 little feeds here, which I think go to the transmission, and then I assume that hooks up to the oil cooler. This one had oil in as well, but my problem lies with these. So the oil filter's in here, and then you've got these sort of pipes, which run down here, all the way down to the bottom, and then they're crimped. Now, I cannot see where the hell they go to. I couldn't see where they came off because obviously they're crimped. I have no idea what they're for, some sort of cooler or something, but even on the new piece, I can't even find it where they go, and I don't have these hoses anyway, so I'm gonna have to order some new ones and try and figure out where this thing actually goes to. I've sussed it, okay? After a little bit of Googling, we have found that these actually go to an oil cooler, which sits flat underneath the engine. Now, it's non-existent because I assume it got ripped off in the accident, and then on the new front end that I bought, it didn't come with it. So I'm going to need 2 oil cooler lines and then the actual oil cooler which goes on underneath. But we've achieved quite a lot so far, and the M4, trust me, it's going to get back on the road. So again, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.